Hi, welcome to my channel. My name is Laura. Today I thought I would do the manga tag. I haven't been tagged by anyone. This is an old tag. I just thought that I've introduced myself, but I also wanted to introduce my manga. It kind of just makes sense that if it's something that I want to talk about on my channel, that you should have a look at it. And really, I like watching these videos myself, so maybe you'll be interested in seeing some of the things in my collection. I do have a rather large collection. I share the collection with my sister. We have just shy of about 4,000 volumes, although maybe it's over that because we don't count any of our Japanese titles. I don't know why. Maybe we should. So it's sort of in that mark. We've been collecting sort of together for the whole time, and it's kind of interesting collecting with someone that close to you, that we have just slightly different tastes in manga, and so it's worked really well for us that we don't fight over who should buy what or who should own what. It's just naturally decided she buys these authors, these titles, and I buy these titles, and we rarely ever have had duplicates. It's only right at the very beginning when we started buying where there were duplicates, but that was just because there was nothing to buy. So this is going to be a long video, and we should probably just get right into the questions. The first question is, what was your first manga? The first manga that I read was Nausicaa of the Valley of the Wind. I had been interested in anime for over 10 years before that, and I had never picked up a manga, and it was just that it was not really prevalent. You couldn't buy them in stores. You had to go to specialty stores to buy things like that. So, you know, up to that point, they were just not anywhere available. And so I read Nausicaa in 2003, and literally I finished the book, I closed the cover, and I told my sister, we're going to buy manga. So the first manga that I bought, I actually bought a couple, and these are the two that I remember, but I'm pretty sure I bought about 5 or 6 in that first time. And my sister bought similar titles, so we both ended up buying Wedding Peach by Naoyazawa. And I also bought Zodiac P.I. by Natsumi Ando. I know there were other titles, but I just can't remember. I just don't remember exactly what they were. I didn't write them down in my diary or whatever. So yeah, these are the first titles. I wouldn't say that any of them are really worth reading, but they're certainly nostalgic. Question 2 is, what was your most expensive manga? That would have to be Nijigahara Holograph by Inyo Asano. The price on this is $29.99 by Fantagraphics. This isn't what I paid for it, and I might have paid more for other volumes in my collection, but this is the one with the highest price point. Number 3 is, what was your least expensive manga? That would have to be Dr. Slump by Akira Toriyama, the Japanese edition. This one is listed for 390 yen, so just shy of $4, about $4. And I probably paid about $3, but, you know, as far as price points on books, this was the cheapest. Number 4 is, what is the most boring manga that you own? That would have to be Ranma Half. Now, I do like Ranma Half. I actually like until about volume 3, but the story becomes incredibly repetitive, and every single new character has very little as well as far as character development or character design. For me, I could probably stand about 4 volumes of this before I am put to sleep. Number 5 is, what is your favorite series? Obviously this is a hard question for me to answer. I have a lot of favorite series, and I have a lot of favorites for different reasons. You know, some have great art, some have great storytelling, you know, some have just sort of like a great combination of both, great character development, great, you know, unique scenarios or whatever. There's just so many different things, and then within every genre and every subgenre, I of course have tops for all of those, but one that I definitely pick up every year and have a hard time putting down when I do pick it up is Red River by Chie Shinohara. And if you've watched any of my videos, because I only have a couple, you know that I have already read this year. I usually read it in January because I try not to let myself read this too often, because it takes time to read, and you know, if I only read it once a year, of course I want to read it right away. So I have already read this year. I'm a huge fan of this one. I'm a huge fan of a lot of series, but I'm a huge fan of this one. Number 6 is what is the most relatable manga that you own? There's lots of different aspects to manga that I relate to. It's one of the reasons that I like manga. Especially, you know, like you're reading something and you can see, you know, especially like slice of life type stories where you see them walking down different streets in Japan, and I actually have photos of those places, you know, so you kind of can relate to them in that way. But then there's stories like, you know, even if it's Sailor Moon, yeah, no, I don't transform and have a talking cat, but I do relate to some of the characters or some of their problems. Maybe not quite so much anymore because I'm quite a bit older than those characters are these days, but you know, there are just different aspects to different stories that you relate to. So I do have 3 that I kind of relate to more. So my adult self definitely relates to I'll Give It My All Tomorrow by Shunji Aono. Yeah, for reasons, obvious reasons, I think. If you've read this one, I'm sorry, I'm going to scare you away, but High School Girls is probably maybe 75% based on my high school experience, which is scary. If you've read High School Girls, yeah, it's scary. But when I read this, I laughed so hard because I was like, yep, that happened. So this one, it's a little more trumped up, obviously, than my experience, but I just feel like this one I really related to. The third one that I relate to is Itazura na Kiss, Volume 3 by Kaoru Tata, and it's not the story at all, but it's because when I look inside, I always have to flip to the back to see the advertisement, and right here above this maid cafe, you see that? They see that eyes and forehead? That's me, right there. So, yeah. How can that not be one of your favorite things as a manga reader, to see yourself in manga? Even if it's just my forehead. That's the greatest. Thank you, DMP, for stealing my image and putting it in your manga. I love it. Number 7 is what is a manga that you own that is based off of an anime, and not the other way around. So, obviously a lot of manga are source material for anime, and usually, you know, a manga will become anime, or anime will start on its own, or it'll be based off of a novel. Sometimes manga is based off of a novel. It occurs less often that anime is the source material for manga. I do have a couple of titles, and I can think of like half a dozen off the top of my head. Most of them aren't very good, and usually it's not something that's worth picking up. But I do have 2 that I'm going to mention. Kujibiki Unbalanced by Kiyoshimoku. I actually am not 100% sure that the anime came first. I'm going to assume that the Genshiken anime came before Kujibiki Unbalanced, the manga, came out. So essentially, Kiyoshimoku wrote a story, Genshiken, and it's a manga, and it is a story about a college group of otaku or geeks that kind of get together, and they have various interests in anime, manga, gaming, whatever, you know, just sort of the realm of geekdom. And one of the things that they have a shared interest in is a TV series and manga series called Kujibiki Unbalanced. And so you see it less in the manga, you know, like they talk about it, but in the anime it becomes quite prevalent because you do hear the, you know, the theme song and stuff quite often. And so I'm assuming that this came after the Genshiken anime, because I can't imagine that the demand for Kujibiki Unbalanced would be there unless the anime was there first. I believe that this came out following the Genshiken anime. Second one I'm going to mention is Otogizoshi by Narumi Seto. This is a 2-volume manga. It was published by Tokyo Pop, and it is the prequel to the anime Otogizoshi. Essentially, this tells the story of how Hikaru, who's the protagonist in the story, takes the place of her brother Raiko. So it's a really nice story. It's got kind of a nice dark aspect to it, but it's romantic. It has really good pacing. It has really nice art. It's quite exciting, but it also like makes you think a bit, and I think that this is actually a pretty good one as far as being based off of an anime, and I think it's probably due to the fact that they had to create the story you know, that wasn't there in the anime to begin with, so I think that's a good choice. You might also like this one if you are a fan of Kenshin. It does have a lot of the feelings of Kenshin, especially kind of in that, like, late-ish part of the series. It doesn't have that same levity that Kenshin has, but it has definitely some of the same feels, so yeah, I definitely recommend this one. I like it. Number 8 is, what is your rarest manga? This is actually probably the hardest question for me to answer, just because I'm unsure how to measure rareness. You know, there are things in my collection that people might consider rare, but you know, if you went online, you really could probably find those things for sale somewhere. So to me, you know, the fact that they're still available somewhere, even if they do cost $100 or $2, doesn't really feel that rare to me. So I'm not sure that anything in my collection is truly rare, but I can show you some of the titles that have been out of print the longest, maybe. First title I'm going to show you is My Codename is Charmer, Psychic School Suspense by Narumi Kakinochi. This was published by Studio Iron Cat. I think I have a couple things published by them. This is 2004, and it's already into the age of non-flipping manga, so you know, it reads correct right to left. I actually still have never read this volume, so maybe I should get on that. The next title I'm going to show you is Record of Lotus War, Welcome to Lotus Island, Volume 1. I also have Volume 2. This is by Rei Hyakuyashiki. And it was published by CPM Manga in 2003, and the majority of it is written with chibi characters. It kind of looks like fan work, so maybe a doujin. I always kind of had the feeling that it was a doujin, but it's also a mostly yonkoma. There are other panel sizes near the end, but for the most part it just looks like a gag comic based on Record of Lotus War. It's not the greatest, but it's kind of a fun thing to have in my collection. The next title I have is Orochi Blood by Kazuo Umezu. This is the pulp imprint of Viz Media from 2002. It's actually really nicely printed. You can see the gold foil. It's a nicely printed volume of manga, and it's on a nice, fairly heavy paper, and it's still beautifully white despite its age, so I'm really happy with these. I don't know what it is, but some of these older editions are just so much more beautiful than the new ones. This is the same author as, I don't know, Cat-Eyed Boy and Scary Book and a number of the titles. Master of Japanese horror and suspense, so yeah, good stuff. Next title that I have is Wild 7 by Mikiya Mochizuki. This is volume 1. I have a variety of volumes from the series, but I don't have a complete set, and it was published by Comics One in 2001. I was actually a big fan of the Comics One publisher before they went under. Well, they turned into Dr. Master kind of in the mid-2000s, and then they went under, so I was really disappointed with that because they published a lot of my favorite titles at the time. They were just a little bit older, a little bit more indie, and yeah, so I was kind of sad about that, but yeah, so I don't hear a lot of people talking about these, but you know, they're also not really readily available. Number 9 is one of your reprinted manga. I'm going to show a couple because some of them are kind of fun. So the first title I'm going to show you is Rarest Celestial Legend by Yu Watase. This is volume 3, and it was published by Viz, and you can see that it's sort of an oversized or larger volume, and that it's a flipped manga, so it reads left to right. And then almost a year, well, exactly a year, maybe a couple months off, they reprinted it. So here it is, non-flipped, standard size by Viz. Yep, that's nice. It's a really nice nostalgic series for me. I wouldn't say that it's the greatest series, but I love it. I'll show you is Slam Dunk, so you'll be familiar with this. This is the Viz edition. This is volume 4. It's a standard size, you know, it reads left to right, and it's from 2009. But 6 years earlier, Raijin had the rights, so, you know, it looks quite similar. But Raijin had the rights, and they didn't get to release the entire series as far as I know, but this one came out in 2003. So you can see that the spines are a little bit different. So I'll have a couple in the Raijin. And, you know, it's you can't really see it on here, but the paper quality from Raijin to the Viz. You know, there isn't really too much different. It's a little bit of a tighter bind, but the paper is just so much thicker and whiter and cleaner and prettier, and the ink is just so much blacker. Oh, Raijin, why? So this one I think is actually kind of funny because it's a reprint, but it's before, or it's back when manga was all being flipped for North American audiences. So I have a reprinted flipped edition of a flipped edition. So this one is My the Psychic Girl, and it is actually Viz Comics from 1988, I think. And then I have another edition from 1995. This 1988 edition actually comes with a book jacket. It's got, you know, the surprise under the cover, and you know, it's not the greatest paper, but it's still really, really nice publication. It came in 4 volumes. And then when they reprinted it, it's just sort of a standard large size manga. You know, there's no flaps or anything. And they reprinted it, you know, it's pretty similar quality, but they reprinted it in 3 volumes instead of 4. This is story by Kazuya Kudo and art by Yoichi Ikegami. It's a really beautiful story, really exciting, compelling, and absolutely worth reading if you ever have a chance to get your hands on it. I have 2 copies. Actually, this is my sister's copy. I gave it to her because I ended up with 2 copies and I like the other one better. So number 10 is, what is your most popular manga that you own? I own quite a few well, I own 2 of sort of like the big 3 that people are calling them. I do have Bleach and Naruto, and my sister owns One Piece. She tends to have more of the really popular titles than I do, so you know, when she makes her video, I'm sure you'll have a chance to see what she's got to show you. But as for me, you know, the popularity of Bleach and Naruto is high, and the frenzy right now is quite high because they are still fairly new and current. But I think that more than those 2 titles, Slam Dunk is probably the most popular title in my collection, and not necessarily for North America, but more of a worldwide stat. It's well-deserved popularity. It's a beautifully drawn manga. It's beautifully paced. The characterization is amazing. It's such a good title, and I absolutely love this title. So, in my opinion, the most popular. You might kind of decide otherwise, but I think that this is probably it in my collection. And obviously you can tell that I'm a big fan of it because I've already showed you 2 other editions I have. And I have a couple more in other languages. Because I can't help it. Because I love it so much. Number 11 is, what are the most damaged manga that you own? I don't really have damaged manga, at least things that I've bought new. Even things that I buy secondhand. Generally if they're damaged, they don't make it into my collection, at least not if I'm reading them. Usually if I'm going to buy a secondhand thing and it's damaged, it will go into my craft pile, and I will cut it into pieces and do things with it. And I probably could show you a book that's cut into pieces, but I don't think I have any parts right now. Yeah, I'm sorry, that's kind of blasphemy, cutting up your books, but believe me, there's no value. I'm not cutting up rare manga, I'm not cutting up ones that have value, and I'm usually cutting up things that are, you know, they're extremely damaged. So I have 2 that are kind of damaged. These were bought secondhand. They're both French, which is really kind of interesting, and I bought them secondhand at a, you know, massive book sale for a couple of cents each, so it wasn't like, I didn't really feel like I was money out of my pocket, but it's just kind of fun to have things like this. I don't speak French, so I have this one of Iwatase's Alice 19th. I believe it's missing a book jacket, and you can see that it's just, the cover is, the corners are all kind of messed up. There's definitely bent pages, and you can see like there's stains on the paper. Like that's unpleasant. But so the next one I've got, of course, is Dragon Ball, also the French edition, and it's just kind of, you can tell it's just really in a rough shape. It's, you know, got lots of creases on the cover. It's probably hard to see in the camera. you know, the corner is all bent, you know, the spine is all whatever. It's, you know, there's, can't really see it, but there's like coffee stain here. So it's just, it's in a bad way. Oh, here, you can kind of really see the coffee stain there. I'm hoping it's a coffee stain. I don't know what else people are doing with their manga. But, you know, things that are actually like legitimately in my collection or being read, they better be in good condition. I actually will buy second copies of certain things because I know that they're not going to last very long because I want to read them. Yeah, so secondhand will probably happen like this, but my first-hand books are not in that kind of condition at all. Number 12 is what manga has the most amazing art. I definitely am attracted to art. There's a lot of different styles of art that I respond to. I'm just going to show you a couple of the ones that I particularly am a fan of. Swan by Ariyoshi Kyoko. This was originally published in kind of the mid-70s, and it's got that really, it's got that early style, but it's just so beautiful and passionate and detailed and delicate all in the same go. It's just so ornate. I think that's probably the good term for it. It's so beautiful. I really respond well to this kind of design. This is probably my newest manga. This is Shuna no Tabi by Hayao Miyazaki. And, you know, the entire thing is watercolor paintings by Hayao Miyazaki. You know, if you think about Nausicaa, but it's very like Nausicaa. It's just so beautiful, the watercolors. Such a nice little book. Clamp is another good one. I'm not entirely sure that I like all of Clamp's work. The art in Shirahime Syo is quite pretty. It's mostly, like, they do have some color in it. It definitely is reminiscent of Japanese ink painting, and it's, you know, it's based on a folktale, so it's just got that nice feel to it. So this one is particularly nice. Not, I wouldn't say this exact publication. There is another one that I've seen that's like the volume is like twice as large, and it's just really, really pretty, but I never had a chance to get my hands on it. And if you couldn't tell, my favorite artist is Takehiko Inoue. Slam dunk. I also have a Buzzer Beater, which was drawn all in marker, and it's full color. I also have Real, and it's got some full color in it, but just the art in it is exactly what you would expect. Really, really, really fine. And then, of course, my absolute favorite, which is Vagabond. So I have these singles, and the standard release, there's a nice one, by Viz. So just standard size. And the small size Japanese edition, but it's kind of interesting. I think this one actually has less color pages than my Viz print does, so that's kind of sad. And then I don't have the omnibus, the Viz Bigs, and I'm really tempted, except for they're huge, and I have it already, but I need it, so that might happen. Yeah, so I absolutely love Takehiko Inoue, especially in Vagabond. Like, not only is his art beautiful and dynamic and exciting and highly detailed, incredibly realistic, it also incorporates a lot of technique that just sort of adds a layer of, it just adds a layer to the story. You know, the story of Vagabond is basically about Miyamoto Musashi, and later in his life he becomes a sumie painter, or, you know, an artist, and just sort of the technique that Inoue uses in this book is so reminiscent of Musashi in his later life that I'm just like, that's all you need. Number 13 is the oldest published manga that you own. So that would have to be The Mysterious Underground Men by Osamu Tezuka. This was released in 1948, although this is a very new printing, I think from 2014 or 2015. And it's released by Picture Box. It's got this really great vintagey feel, really cute illustration, and then the comic is printed in this comic is printed in this sort of like grained color, which is really nice. But I must say that the text, ooh, the text in the bubbles is hideous. So that was an unfortunate event. But other than that, this is a really nice publication. So it's too bad that there aren't going to be any more. As far as the longest in-print in English that I own, I did already show you My the Psychic Girl, which is from 1988. I also have Nausicaa of the Valley of the Wind by Hayao Miyazaki. This was actually released by Viz, and I only have volumes 1, 3, and 5. And I think there might be 7 or 8 of this, but I have the new box set, so I guess I don't really have to fill this hole in, but you know, it's kind of would like to. So this one is, yeah, 1989, and it's probably, like, it's cute from the cover, and it's, you know, each cover is in a different color, but as far as quality goes, this one isn't particularly good. The inks aren't very black, and the paper isn't very, it's not high quality, so I'm glad to have it, but you know, it's not something that I want to read exactly. Here's another one that I have from early publication is 1989. It's Gray, Volume 1 by Yoshihisa Tagami. I have Volume 2 as well, which is a complete set, and this was published by Viz. It's in the same edition as that My the Psychic Girl that I showed earlier. So number 14 is the newest published manga that you own. In English, that would be A Girl on the Shore by Inio Asano. This was published last month, January, but in Japanese that would be Skip Beat Volume 37. This was published in September of last year, so fairly recent. You know, this Asano's title was actually published in 2011, so it's quite a bit older. So this is probably the most current title that I own. Number 15 is a recent volume of manga that you've purchased. The last two I talked about are ones that I purchased. I buy manga fairly regularly, but I'll show you this one. This one I bought in December, and it's Fragments of Horror by Junji Ito. And I'm going to show it to you because I just didn't know how pretty it was until I had it in my hands. You know, you can see in the reflection that there's actually a clear coat embossing on the cover of a horrific image, and you can actually see that image if you take off the jacket cover, and you get this really pretty hardback book. If this was all that Viz had given, I would have been like ridiculously pleased with the quality of this book, but the fact that they also did that to the jacket cover and gave you a hidden surprise. Viz, the best! This is your best book. The best quality Viz manga that I own from 1988 to the present, and I bought it in December. I sure hope that they are going to bring out more like this. So pretty. And kind of gross. Pretty and gross. I love it. My favorite. Pretty and gross. Okay, so I think that's it. You made it to the end. Congratulations. I am going to tag my sister to do this video so you can see the rest of our collection, or at least her experience of the rest of our collection, because, you know, as I said before, it's kind of a 50-50 deal and she has half of it. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in my next video. Bye.